Brainstorm, bringing great minds and ideas together, exploring a wide variety of opportunities, achieving academic excellence, using the latest technology, government's impact, preparing for 21st century careers, parenting and health issues, topics shaping tomorrow. Brainstorm with Lisa Willever, bringing great minds and ideas together.
Welcome to Brainstorm. I'm Lisa Willever, and today we're talking about money. Before we begin, let's learn a little bit more about our topic. Money. We play with it before we know what it is, we work to earn it, we dream about spending it, and we use it to make life easier for others. Yep, money is everywhere. But what do we really know about it? Maybe if we understood how it worked, we could make it last and grow longer. Joining me today, I have Jared Riley, the Vice President of Planning for Mercadian. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So this is going to be a topic that a lot of people probably think they know a lot about, and most of us probably don't. We're talking about money.
Yeah, it always kind of boggled my mind that when you're in school, you learn all these different topics, biology, chemistry, math, and yet none of us are really taught money. You hopefully learned it at home, but that's not always the case for everyone. And
even what we may learn at home is probably not enough in today's economy. When I was a kid, things were more cash. You knew how much cash you had, and you knew what was in your savings account. And now people have multiple accounts, and you've got debit, but you've also got credit, and you've got many different things.
And you can swipe nowadays. You
don't
even need the cards.
Yeah, tap something now. You tap it and buy it. So
yes, it's changed quite a bit in a short period of time.
Do you think schools have been able to keep up with all the changes, because they're coming so rapidly?
Well, to be fair, it's been a while since I've been in school, so I can't say
with
100%.
Never do that.
with 100% accuracy. But I don't think there is enough being done in the school system, just because regardless of what you do for a living, we all manage money. And some of us are a little bit better, and that's, like I said, mainly because you've probably learned most of that from home. And
Absolutely.
Not everyone teaches that to their children at home.
No, and I think for a lot of children, college or post-high school is probably the first time they're actually managing money, whether it's their parents' money, if they're sending them money, or if they're out working and it's their own money. What do you think are some of the biggest stumbling blocks for people who are new to managing money?
I'd say the timing of cash flows is probably one of the trickiest things. I remember when I went to college, my junior year, I missed the lottery to stay on campus. So I had to move off campus.
Oh.
And I became the one in charge of handling the finances at the college house off campus. So I had to go to the guys, collect money. So I was used to, collecting bills like some of us, you might miss some payments. I was on the other end of that. So it was a different appreciation of trying to make payments due on time and just handling all the stuff that life throws at us, because even though you can make the best plans, and they still get blown up from time to time.
Oh yeah, plans are just, I think they always say God laughs at plans, like why are you planning anything? I remember in the Popeye cartoons, they always had the Wimpy character, and he would say, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yes.
And I think, that was always funny when we were kids, but today that's how most people live, where a lot of times the things you need immediately, you may not have the money for, so you pay for them at a later date.
Yeah.
How do you explain credit to kids? Because it seems so easy. Like if you're a little kid shopping with your mom and she says, yeah, I'll buy you that bike, and you see her just sign her name, that's like, where do I sign? Sure.
Credit is one of the most important topics to tackle, because it ends up snowballing. So you always hear, start early, save a little bit, let your money earn interest, and that interest earns interest, and so on and so forth. But it works with credit the same way. So if you're borrowing money from someone, you have to pay interest. And if you miss a payment, then that interest accrues, and then the interest on the interest. And what you ended up buying in the first place, that bicycle might have cost $100, whatever, can end up costing you $150, $200 if you're not making payments on time, if you skip a payment here or there. But I think for children, to teach them credit, if you're in a position to give an allowance, right? I remember when I was a kid, I'd get $5 a week.
Kids all over the country right now are cheering. They're like, Jared, go Jared, give a number.
Universal allowance. But I remember I would get like $5 a week, and I liked playing video games, but they would cost $40 to $60. So obviously I would have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
and save up the money over the course of several weeks to get a game that I wanted. Or, I could ask my parents and they might loan me, front me some of my allowance, but then you remember, okay, for the next month, there's no money coming in because I borrowed it. So I think that's a good way. If you're in a position to have an allowance for a kid, that's a good way to teach them that lesson earlier in life. And it'll be a lot less expensive if they learn it at a younger age.
And I think something you mentioned a moment ago, which really is kind of like the most basic part of this whole thing, is credit is borrowing.
Yes.
Kids, credit is borrowing. It is not your own money. It's not somebody just handing you a gift. Like, you have to pay it back. And money costs money. I remember, I think I was in college and a professor was saying it, and I kept thinking, what does he mean money costs money? I never put two and two together at that point. That interest, you're paying somebody to let you use their money. And I don't think all kids get that fact. It just seems like sign your name and pay it whenever.
I think a good way of thinking about money is, and I was talking to my wife about this a couple weeks ago, where when she was in college, she worked in retail, and she got minimum wage, and she would go at lunchtime 3-4 stores over, buy herself lunch, and it cost $8, $9, and she thought
2 hours worth of work.
Yeah, that was an hour and a half of my time. Don't think of money in terms of money. Think of it in terms of time. Like, you've put in this time, and you've built it up, and now you can exchange it for goods and services. But ultimately, we're spending time. And if you're borrowing money from someone else, you're basically spending your time in the future. Right? It's time that you haven't worked yet that you're going to have to use in the future to pay down that debt.
That is really a great way to explain it to kids, because I know I have one of my children works in a grocery store making minimum wage, and that's kind of his barometer now. The metric he uses when he sees how much something costs is, that would take me 9 hours to make that, or that would take me a week and a half to earn that much. And he does equate it to how much time he has to put in at work to be able to come up with that equivalency in cash.
Do I need to pick up another shift to pay for this? And is it worth it?
Is it worth it question? Because I think sometimes, when it's not your money, everything's worth it and everything's awesome. But you see kids, once they get even with their own allowance, when they have that money and they're face to face with purchasing something, and then they won't let go of it. They're a little hesitant when it's their money and they know there's nothing left in the piggy bank till you earn more.
And I think to kind of flip the script there, a good way of teaching the cost of borrowing is also to show the value in saving. So again, going back to allowance, or even if they have a job and they're saving some money, maybe the banks I know don't pay a lot these days, but maybe you say, okay, I'll hold your money, and for each week you don't touch it, I'll give you a 1% bump, or whatever. Come up with your own terms that make sense, but show the value in deferring spending. Show the value in saying, all right, you know what? Rather than borrow someone else's money to buy something, maybe I'll just save up what I have and wait. Maybe instead of buying something today, that bike today that I want, I'll buy it 3, 4, 5 months down the road when I have enough money saved up.
I think that's such great advice. Now, when you're talking about high school kids who are, very close to being out on their own at some point, is it a good idea for parents to talk to kids even about just bills that the family incurs, like household expenses? I mean, I've always done that with my kids, and I've said to them, like, hey, look at that electric bill right there. Hey, look at this bill. Because I always thought they should know how much things cost. Is that something a good tool for parents to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
I know there's kind of the three top, you're not supposed to talk about money and sex and politics, right? But I think it's important to talk about money, because it's one of those things that sometimes we don't want to share with the kids, but it's important to highlight. I remember my mom sitting at the dining room table and pulling out money from the bank, right, when we used cash still, and putting it in the envelope. She used to do the separate envelopes. So, all right, this is how much we're going to need for the utilities, this is for the mortgage, this is the food budget. And seeing her do that, it really helped ingrain in me, okay, there's an importance to budgeting and planning ahead and making sure that we set aside what we need. And, the disposable fun stuff kind of comes last. You got to go through all those necessary expenses.
And you're right. People don't want to talk about money. And I think when it comes to kids, parents want to shield them from ever being concerned about money or knowing too much. You don't want your kid going to 3rd grade and guess how much my dad makes. So I think there's always been a little reticence for that. But maybe if kids know, this is how much we have this month, and these are all the bills, they would see for themselves, how much flexibility there is. So maybe those $100 sneakers, maybe the kids even themselves would think that's a lot. Like, we only have $600 left for this month. do I really want to ask my parents for 1/6 of it? So I think the whole idea of involving them. Talk to me about budgets, though. Is it good for even kids with the little amount of money they may have for them to learn how to make a budget?
Budgeting, so when we do a financial plan, I always start with the budget. And 9 out of 10 people, when they come to us, they say, yeah, I got this much money, right? They know to a T exactly how much they have, how much they owe. They know their number. What most people don't know is their budget. What's their lifestyle? What does it cost to be you? And again, start young, get them focused on managing money, even if it's a little pool. And again, they don't need to know how much you make or how much you spend on everything. But maybe you set aside a budget for kids, whether it's for their sports, whether it's toys, recreation, whatever. If you have a budget set aside for how much you're going to pay to support the kids, let them in on that and let them know, okay, if you do want those nice sneakers, then you might not be able to go to 6 weeks of basketball camp. You might only be able to get to do 4 weeks. So maybe we get that less expensive pair of sneakers, and then you can go and train. And overall, it might be better for you to, delay the expense here to spend money elsewhere and get more benefit from it. But yeah, absolutely. A budget is the earlier you can get them focused on managing money, the better.
I remember when I used to be a teacher, and our principal would come in with the preliminary budget for us to look at, and then they always asked for input. And he used to say, this document isn't just dollars and cents, this is a list of priorities. And they wanted us to not look at it as much as, this is this much money. What are your priorities? Do you want to put more money here? There's only so much to work with. And I think that finiteness of a budget, that there's a limited amount of money and you have to make value decisions and you have to decide what your priorities are. And, if you choose the wrong things, you'll suffer a consequence that you'll miss out on something else that was also important to you. So, kind of choose wisely.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things to focus on there too is, we're focused on what's like money's coming in and then we're focused on where it's going out. But we want to ideally make sure that a portion of what you have coming in is paying yourself, saving, right? So if you're pulling in 100, we could spend 100, but then there's nothing for those emergencies. There's nothing for that future unexpected expense, or hopefully you can save some of that money, put it to work so it works for you, and then you don't need to work as hard in the future.
Work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. You know what? We are going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about savings and also more about money. So we'll be right back with some more Brainstorm.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it. First impression. My way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Brainstorm. We're talking about money, and I'm here with Jarrett Riley from Mercadian. And we were just talking about savings. So let's talk about how important it is to save. I know when kids get money, whether they're getting an allowance or it's their first job, saving's not exactly the most attractive thing to do with their money. It's like mall savings. How do we explain to them the importance of savings?
Savings is there to cushion the blow from those unexpected emergencies that just pop up, right? So I think it really is tends to show itself when your kid starts to drive, right, and they have a car, and then they need new tires or the oil change, or it starts making that weird sound and shaking, and now there's a unexpected $300, $400, $500 bill. That's when you realize how important savings is, because sure, it's easy to, money comes in, money goes out, we're having fun, but those unexpected things are what cause people to go to credit, go to the credit card, because they don't have the savings in place to pay out of cash. And then if you're going to credit, if you're borrowing money from someone else, you're going to have to pay them the interest, and then it snowballs and so on and so forth. And whatever you'd end up spending becomes a lot more. So savings is key to help cushion those unexpected blows that come.
And I think just as a mom, I think deferring gratification for kids, you really want that video game, or you really want those new hockey skates, whatever it is. I think if you can make them wait a little while. Like, I could lend you all the money right now and you'll have it and you have to pay me back and you're going to forget and I'm going to have to keep it. But if they actually are saving towards it till they reach that goal, I think they value whatever the purchase is that much more. I think it becomes like they take ownership of it. And I think there has to be more of an appreciation by waiting instead of just the instant, I want it now and I get it now.
I mean, I think we'd all love to have money grow on trees and
Wouldn't
just
that be
have
wonderful?
what we want.
It's right there on the
There you go.
little money growing.
But yeah, no, there is, you don't appreciate the work and the time and the sacrifice that go into acquiring these things if it's as simple as swiping a card that mom and dad supply the money for. If they have to go and work at the grocery store for 20, 30, 40 hours a week worth of work to get those shoes or that hockey stick, now they might value it more because they know, all right, if I break this, that was 20, 30, 40 hours of my time.
And you know what came back recently, which I loved when I was a kid? My mom used to do this all the time, layaway. Where we would go to a store and we would pick a few things out and she'd say, all right, I'm going to put it on layaway. And you would give it to them and, every month or every week she would go and put, $5 or $10 on it. And then when she got it, she loved these things. I mean, she cherished them. It wasn't like she took them home and then didn't sleep at night because she had a giant credit card bill. Yeah. When she did bring them home, they were hers.
And that's saving.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you're
like
just
vacation
slowly
clubs
setting
or
aside
Christmas
money.
clubs at a bank. I mean, you
I
used to
remember
always
my mom
go
would
in
do that.
always go in the bank, and in the middle of July, you'd hear people. When I would be in line with my dad, and I'd hear the people in front of us say, "Put 10 in my savings account, my savings club, some in my vacation club, some in my Christmas club." And I'm thinking, Christmas? It's July, but you know what? When it was time to buy Christmas gifts, they weren't charging them. They had access to money that they had been saving all year long.
I totally forgot about that, but I remember my mom had that little passport book.
Yeah.
And she would go in, and put $10 here, 15 there. If she had a good month, maybe 20 or 30 bucks, and then there was the Christmas budget.
And no worries, because I think people have so many money worries right now because everybody's overextended. So maybe if we especially with this next generation, we explain to them, don't get in over your head. Talk about credit score, because I don't think most kids understand what the credit score is. Yeah. And how it's going to affect them for their whole life, and how hard it is sometimes to fix it if you've really done a number on it.
In a nutshell, the credit score is just a number. So the FICO score is probably the most popular one. Fair Isaac Corporation puts it out. And the FICO score is a number that shows how creditworthy you are. So if I'm a lender, I'm a credit card company or a mortgage company, I look at your score, and that's just an easy way for me to kind of ballpark how risky you're going to be. How likely am I going to get my money back if I lend it to you?
So if I have a low number, that makes you think I may not pay that, I may not be able to, or I may not pay that bill based on my history that I've established.
And it's also going to determine what interest they charge you. Because the higher your score, they'll view you as a safer risk, right? That you're more likely to get the money back, and as a result, I can lend money to you at a lower rate. I don't demand as much because I think I'm going to get paid back.
So it's all about risk.
Yeah, it's from their perspective, they just want to get the money that they're putting out back.
Okay.
So the score ranges from 3 to 850, but what most people don't realize is if you go to an auto finance, if you go to buy a new car and you're going to the finance department, they're getting a different number from the company than your mortgage company or your credit card company. There's actually like 30 different scores that FICO tracks, because what a credit card company wants to know is not the same thing as an auto company, as a mortgage company.
Okay.
A mortgage company, right? They're going to have the house as collateral. So there's some different factors. If you don't pay, we'll still have a house. It's okay. The auto, same thing. The credit card companies, there's nothing to backstop that, right? They could harass you, call you on the phone, say, hey, give us the money. But ultimately, they don't have a claim to anything. So they're going to be looking at some different metrics than other lenders. So just be aware that there isn't just one score. There's a lot of different numbers.
Well, and if you look at, a mortgage when you buy it, it's the loan you take out when you buy a house, and usually you pay it back over 15 or 30 years, so it's a long loan. So that interest number is a big deal.
Yes.
Because over the course of that 15 or 30 years, that a fluctuation in that number can mean what, tens of thousands of dollars?
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, New Jersey is not a cheap state to be in. Other parts of the country, I know San Francisco is very expensive.
Yeah,
in some areas it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So
another thing too, we think, interest, right? We focus on you lend the money and the interest costs are going to fluctuate and they could be really large numbers.
Yeah.
But there's also other things that could be impacted. So you have a car, you need auto insurance. Auto companies, not all states, but in a lot of the states, they look at your credit score to determine, how risky are you going to be? Not just, if you're a young man, obviously I used to pay a real high premium because they just viewed me as risky.
Yeah.
But they also look at credit scores. And in some states, Consumer Reports did a survey a few years back. In some states, if you have perfect credit and a DWI, you pay the same as someone that doesn't have a DWI and poor credit.
Wow.
Which is wild when you think about
Yeah.
it. So it doesn't just impact you financially, it can impact you in other areas.
And I know even employers, so kids need to know when you graduate from college, if you've been spending money like a drunken sailor on the credit card and you go to apply for a job and you haven't been making your payments, a lot of businesses look at your credit score before they offer you a job.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, I think, some people you fall on hard times and you just can't do anything about it sometimes. And you get dinged. But what ends up happening is it spills over not just in basic money situations. It could be hurting you in a job process as well.
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people just don't think about. What tips would you give to parents who have either young children or children who are, still living home but are about to go out on their own? What would you say to them?
So in terms of like
just
credit,
basic
and
money knowledge.
Oh yeah, in terms. Just before we jump off the credit score conversation, your credit score has multiple factors. One of which is the length of history. So I would say if you have like an 18-year-old, get him a credit card, small balance, nothing large, maybe $500 credit limit. So they're building a history. And ideally you could even take it from them so they can't use it.
Well, they used to tell us that when we were in high school, so that's still a thing to do?
Yes, I mean, part of what goes into a credit score, it's a smaller component, but is the length of your credit history showing, okay, I've had this for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. By the time they get out of college, they have
credit.
4 years of history, and if you just kept the credit card, they didn't actually have access to it.
Okay.
Then they have a perfect record of never running up a balance, never missing a payment, and that's only going to help them from a credit score perspective.
That's actually a great tip because we know that the credit score is so important, and if the parents can kind of like join them in the first entrance into credit worthiness, I think they have a little guidance.
Because I remember when I went to college, one of the first, you'd knock on the door of your dorm room and there'd be advertisers, and the first one was a credit card company.
Well, free T-shirt.
So if you,
sign up
free
for the credit
T-shirt.
card.
So if you guys can be part of that process before the general marketers get to them, that's a good thing.
Well, and a lot of times kids see, I'm going to go out on a shopping spree, and they might spend $500, and then the bill comes and it says you owe 18, and they're like, this is fantastic. How many years does it take to pay off
usually,
a minimum balance?
So in the past, they used to not show that on the credit card statement. Now they do. And generally, when you look at it, it's 3 to 5 years, where if you make a payment, it could end up, if you're just making the minimum payment, take 3 to 5 years to pay it off.
And I like how they also give you the amount you'll have paid in interest.
Yeah,
so instead of, and if you pay your credit card off at the end of the month, you don't have any interest.
Correct. And a lot of the cards have benefits too.
Yeah.
So that's, what we do is take advantage of those benefits and get rid of the balance right away.
Are you scared?
A little bit, yeah, we'll see.
Okay,
This is close. I hope I can make it.
We are going to play Brainstorm. In the tradition of all great brainstorming sessions, we're going to go over some ideas. If they're good, we keep them. If they're not that good, you get to ball them up and throw them out. I know there's no backboard. I'm getting a lot of complaints from guests. We need a backboard. I'll even tilt it for you.
Okay.
All right. Number 1, teaching young children about money is a good start.
We'll keep that one.
All right, very good.
We're not going to throw that out.
No, definitely not. Establishing good credit can save thousands of dollars.
Keep it.
Even tens, right? Tens,
hundreds.
Hundreds of thousands. I like
Lots
that.
of money.
Budgets are for amateurs and not necessary.
All right, I'm gonna throw
All
this
right,
one
you got
out.
one, right?
Budgets are not for amateurs.
No, but I've been budgeting since I was in 8th grade. I think I've always had a budget. A few point difference in interest doesn't really matter.
Every little bit counts.
Every little bit, I agree with that. You should understand how credit cards work before getting them.
Yes,
And I think that
absolutely.
was what you said just now. You know, get the credit card with your child, let them, you know, spend
And
and
the
pay.
terms, you know, when you miss a payment, what's that going to cost? And a lot of them have teaser interest rates, which
The
they
teaser.
start low, and then, you know, you find out after that 1-year anniversary, you're not paying 20, 30%.
What you should do is before the first purchase, you have to read the whole fine print.
Yeah, it's
then
not
they won't
fun.
Make any, they won't
It's
make
not
any
fun,
payments.
but
They'll
yeah,
never
you
get
should.
there.
You should.
Savings aren't really necessary. You're getting a lot of action here.
All right,
Okay,
3
look at
for
you.
3.
Were you out in the parking lot practicing? Guessing your net worth is not the most accurate method.
That's correct.
Okay, so we should really look at numbers and
Yeah, you
actually
don't want to.
crunch.
You don't want to be guessing that.
Because people, I'm sure, come into you and are like, oh, I'm in great shape. And then you look at maybe debts and other things they didn't consider.
Yeah, and not just net worth, but you know, it's net worth compared to the budget too.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a lot of money, but if you're spending a
Yeah.
lot, that's not a great situation.
And a good budget requires accurate data.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we have given our viewers some really great information on a topic that we always think everybody knows about, but you know, sometimes we don't know as much about money as we should.
Can always learn more.
Always learn more, and always teach our children at the youngest age possible how to handle money and what it's all about.
Yep. The key thing in finance is time value money. So start young, as early
Time
as
value
you can.
money. I'm going to get a mug with that. Okay,
There you
we're going
go.
to put that on one of the mugs. Well, I want to thank you, Jarrett. It's been a pleasure having you here. And I want to thank the viewers for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the next episode of Brainstorm.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.